don't fight your way through that day. If it's not working, don't leave claw marks on everybody trying to fight your way through. Just call it good. Call it a day and try again tomorrow.
Ever feel like you suck at this job? Motherhood, I mean. Have too much anxiety and not enough patience? Too much yelling, not enough play? There's no manual, no village, no guarantees. The stakes are high. We want so badly to get it right. But this is survival mode. We're just trying to make it to bedtime. So if you're full of mom guilt, your temper scares you, you feel like you're screwing everything up, and you're afraid to admit any of those things out loud, this podcast is for you. This is Failing Motherhood. I'm Danielle Bettman, and each week we'll chat with a mom ready to be real, sharing her insecurities, her fears, her failures, and her wins. We do not have it all figured out. That's not the goal. The goal is to remind you, you are the mom your kids need. They need what you have, you are good enough, and you're not alone. I hope you pop in earbuds, somehow sneak away, and get ready to hear some hope from the trenches. You belong here, friend. We're so glad you're here. Hey, it's Danielle. I have 3 things to talk to you about before we start the show. Number 1, thank you for listening to this podcast. I hope that it is serving you, and I hope you've told a friend. I'm going to start featuring a review each episode to share what other moms are saying. So here's one. I've never felt connected to anything like I have with this podcast. It's amazing hearing from other moms and experts in their own areas be vulnerable. They are experiencing the same problems I am and are giving me real ways to help myself be a better mom. Thanks, Jamie. If you haven't left a review yet, search Failing Motherhood in iTunes or Apple Podcasts. Click over to read reviews, and it'll show you where to leave one yourself. Number 2, as my gift to you, I have compiled my best perspectives and step-by-step strategies of what to do in the middle of a meltdown or tantrum, and created a free PDF guide ready for you to download. It's called Calm Big Emotions. I don't know about you, but we've had heightened big emotions at our house from both the kids and from me. This pandemic has been really hard on our kids, and I know that you want to do everything you can to be there for them. So to get yours, go to parentingwholeheartedly.com/emotions. And number 3, did you know that I offer virtual parent coaching? If you feel like you've tried every strategy under the sun and none of them are working, or if you and your partner are not on the same page in those heated moments, and if you can't seem to stay calm like you want to, you are not alone. Who knew parenting was going to be this hard on a good day, let alone in a pandemic? As your parent coach, I help you figure out what's really going on, problem solve new strategies, and help you feel like you know what you're doing. Honestly, I can pinpoint disconnects and gaps from my point of view much faster than it's going to take you to keep asking on forums or throwing spaghetti at a wall, and while you struggle, your kids are miserable too. Find more information at my website, parentingwholeheartedly.com. As a new client and podcast listener, enter the promo code PODCAST for $25 off your consultation. I can't wait to work with you. So that was a lot. As a recap, number 1, leave a review. Number 2, download your guide at parentingwholeheartedly.com/emotions. And number 3, let's work together. Now, I can't wait to have you listen to this interview with Rebecca and Alaina. If you have daughters, make sure you listen all the way to the end on this one. Enjoy! Welcome to Failing Motherhood. My name is Danielle Bettman, and on today's episode, I'm joined by a mother-daughter duo. Rebecca and Alaina Walsh have created a podcast together called Lemons and Curls, Nourishing Mothers and Girls. Rebecca is an engineer turned stay-at-home homeschooling mom, and Alaina is 16, living her best junior year of high school life. You'll find their family mountain biking, backpacking, kayaking, or traveling the country in their pop-up camper. Welcome. I'm so excited to have you both on today.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. Well, I'm a girl mom myself. So a huge goal of mine is to foster that strong relationship with my girls as they get older. So I am all ears to the wisdom and advice that you guys have to share. And I have all the questions for you, but I'll start with you, Rebecca. Have you ever felt like you were failing motherhood?
Every day. Yes.
Welcome to the club.
I don't think there's been a day that's gone by where I haven't felt like I've been failing motherhood. So, yeah, I feel like this is an awesome club, and I love being a part of it.
Thank you.
This is one that I can really grab a hold of.
Yes. We need like badges and merit badges and like.
I love it.
Yes.
Wear it with pride.
Exactly. It's way better to own it than to pretend like it doesn't exist because that's sad. So you have 2 kids, right? Tell me a little bit about your family.
Yeah. My husband and I live up in north central Minnesota with our 2 children. Alaina, who's with me today, is 16.
Hello.
And my son is 14. So it's the 2 of us, 2 of them, 4 of us, and we have a few little animals running around, a couple bunnies, a couple dogs, a tortoise.
Fun.
So yeah, we're loving up here. We live in the woods and enjoy the wildlife. So
I love that.
Yeah.
So, okay. First question. Did you always know that you were going to be a stay-at-home mom? What did that decision look like for you?
I had full plans of becoming an engineer and then working, and my kids would be in daycare and I would be a working mom. And that sense and that plan I was brought up with. That's kind of what my mom instilled in me, that you work and you provide and you help your husband that way. And then when I was about 9 months pregnant with Alaina, my first child, I was consulting at a company and they ran out of work for me. And so they figured it's best to kind of offload me at 8.5 months pregnant and then not have to worry about it. And because I was a consultant, I really had no repercussions. I had nothing to go back to, really. I couldn't, do anything about it. And so I kind of decided and realized at that point that maybe, that was God's plan, that I needed to be home. But it was a huge transition for me because I was such, intent on working. So it was kind of a step-by-step process for me. So I'm home for a while, but after a few months of being home, I realized I didn't want to leave my children. I wanted to be with them. So it turned into being a stay-at-home mom and figuring out what that looks like financially, what that looks like emotionally, what that looks like, all around. So it was a big change.
That's a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I was not planning on being a stay-at-home mom or even one of those crazy homeschoolers.
Yeah, so you're not only staying at home, but you're homeschooling as well, right? And have the whole time?
Yep.
We have been the whole time, but I was not planning on it. I was very dead set, not only against us homeschooling, but any homeschoolers. Like, I thought it was completely the wrong thing to do. And over time and over the course of, the few years I had my daughter and I started to get to know some homeschoolers, the idea just started to grow in me. So it's kind of like the idea with staying home. Now I took that next step into the crazy world of homeschooling. And it was a big step. But if you look back, it was a whole bunch of little steps to get us there. But yeah, now we've been homeschooling the whole time.
Wow. So what had your preconceived notions been, and how was that different from what reality ended up to be?
Well, first of all, there's always the socialization issue that everybody brings up. What about socialization? And they have a whine in their voice. What about socialization? And and I had that same fear. It's like, well, your kids should be at school socializing. And there's a few problems with that. The first is kids aren't supposed to be socializing at school. They're supposed to be learning. And the big part that really struck me is that I'm expecting other 9-year-olds to teach my 9-year-old what is socially acceptable. And that really struck me, the fact that, wait a minute, that's not who's supposed to be socializing my kids. I'm supposed to be teaching them what's socially acceptable, not other 9-year-olds. And they're not getting enough adult interaction in a school to really have that true socialization that I feel that they need. And so that completely debunked the socialization question of who's going to teach my child what is socially correct. And as a parent, you want your kids to be socially accepted as an adult. They're going to spend the majority of their years as an adult, not as a child in school. So as adults, we aren't separated by age. You know, it's not like we go to work and we have our little age pods that, you know, you go to work in or anything.
That would be terrible. Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense if you really start tearing it down. And having that mind, like I have that mind of always needing to make sense of things, just constantly of, you know, solving problems. And so that was something that when I realized really wasn't a problem, and I eliminated the socialization issue, then the other ideas of, you know, do you have the education to teach, you know, your own child? Well, there's books out there to help you. Come to find out, you don't have to be an expert to be able to teach your other children. And so those other things started to just kind of fall away. And I realized that my own preconceived notions of what homeschoolers were was really off, and that I just kind of relearned what they really, you know, could be. So, especially after meeting a few, and they're very well spoken, and I'm like, hey, I want my child to be like that. So,
yeah, they weren't just like terribly awkward nerds.
Not any more so than any other child at that age, right?
Yes, exactly.
I'm like, they're complaining about other homeschoolers being like that, but I'm watching kids get off the bus.
There they are.
There they are.
That's a good point. Yeah. And Alaina, since we have you here, I'll bring you in. What has homeschooling looked like for you? What have you appreciated, and what's kind of been your journey?
I've actually really liked being homeschooled. I would much rather be homeschooled than have gone to public school, mostly because I can like choose what things I want to learn about too. Like I can choose, basically.
Do you ever feel like you're missing out?
Not really, no. I'm in a lot of other things too besides just like school, like other sports and like Civil Air Patrol and other stuff like that. So I feel like I'm getting a lot of chance to like have friends and stuff.
The socialization.
Yeah.
Homeschooling sometimes is a misnomer. You have to be home to homeschool. And sometimes we're running around so much we're not even home.
Yeah. So what has that been like for your family? Because it sounds like you travel a lot.
Yeah, we do travel quite a bit. So we have learned to sometimes take school with us when we're traveling and like do it in the car or like on the road or at coffee shops or something. But we also sometimes try to like get it done before we go so we don't have to take it with us, because sometimes school books get heavy and they're really annoying to take places. So
that's a good point. You don't want to be lugged down by a huge backpack while you're hiking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not very fun to be, oh, let's go on vacation and be in the vacation mindset and have to bring school along. You know, nobody likes that.
Yeah.
But we have
so what are the other... Yeah, go ahead. What are the other, like, advantages?
Well, you can schedule your vacations, especially when your children are younger, around the busy times of things. So if you want to go to Disney World, or, you know, if it's open, or if you want to go to these places, you can schedule around it. So, you know, avoiding the Christmas break and avoiding the spring break times. So you just kind of schedule your school so that you're doing school during those times and you can go traveling at other times. So that has been a great advantage. Now that the kids are both in high school, we are doing more online classes and some higher level classes. So we are now kind of tied down to a typical school year. But it was great when they were younger because we could just literally, I would be up in Minnesota freezing in February and be like, okay, let's go visit Grandma and Papa. And we would drive down to Arizona, pack the car, let's go, and just relocate. So,
oh, that sounds dreamy.
So it has its advantages, and especially within the homeschooling community, if you're doing homeschooling classes and stuff online, they even have just kind of understanding that that's what homeschool families do. And so there's a lot of flexibility in that.
What resources have you found? Because I know that like it's 2020, the internet is a plethora of helpful resources, but you know, Facebook groups, all the things. Like what have you found to be the most accessible, helpful things that you've found?
So like thinking like curriculum wise or just homeschooling in general?
Just in general, like how have you been able to piece together curriculum and make decisions and, you know, find things like, you know, extracurriculars and things like that?
As far as looking for curriculum, there are so many resources out there. There's a few places that have a bunch of reviews. And so you can look at those reviews, but it can get overwhelming. So usually what I recommend to people that are just starting off with homeschooling that don't quite know where they want to go, I recommend doing what we call like a big box curriculum to at least start off with. And that's going to give you all of your subjects that you need basically to teach your children. And it comes in one big kit. Now, some parents can't afford that. And there's a whole bunch of free options online also. But what that did for me when I started is it allowed me to spend that year deciding how they learn and how I teach, what worked in that curriculum and what didn't. And then I adjusted from there. So it gave me at least a jumping off point. So if you start off trying to get the perfect thing the first time, it's really, really hard because there's so many options. And so once you decide what you want to do and then you get the curriculum in, then you kind of have to plan it. And it can get quite like overwhelming. And so picking something that just kind of is a kit to get started is a great way to jump off from. Another thing is to just release and breathe and be okay with failing at it every day. Being okay with scrapping it. Being okay with, okay, school lasted 20 minutes before there were tears. We're just, let's go have some ice cream, everybody. We'll just try again tomorrow. So it's so enriching homeschooling. It has taken so much less time in the day to homeschool compared to public school that it's really quite flexible, and we get so intense about it and so anxious we all do about, you know, making sure everything gets in there that we kind of lose the sense of it being fun, and it can be an exploration. And you can use the opportunity to homeschool to teach your children to learn, not teach them everything, but teach them to enjoy learning. Because if they can read, if they can do basic math and they love to learn, the sky's the limit. They can teach themselves anything. So it's not about making sure that they get all those history dates. And then it's not about making sure that they've done every problem on that math worksheet. It's about just learning to love to learn.
I love that. That is such an important message that moms starting off their homeschooling journey this fall will definitely need to like put on a mantra on their wall because I'm sure that the levels of failure are going to feel pretty high, and it's going to be really hard to know whether or not they're doing it right, or if they're getting anything through, or like what things can I check off and feel any level of accomplishment, because it's just all new territory for them. And it's like so many families are just starting to even consider it, let alone maybe take on this role officially for the next year, or maybe many years after that. We'll have to see if they like it. But what other advice do you have for families that are either trying to make that decision or are stepping into it for the first time that are just important things to remember that you've learned?
One of the things that we've learned, and Alaina, I think you could probably talk a little bit more about this, is the difference between a schedule and a routine.
Ooh.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
One thing that we used to try is having a schedule where we schedule specific times for things. Like I remember actually at one point, mom told us when we were really little, I was like 8 or something. She's like, okay, you need to get up at 6:30. And then if you're not in the kitchen at 7 o'clock, like you can't, like breakfast, you have to be in the kitchen at 7 o'clock to have breakfast. And then like 8:30 school starts. And then that, like the first day we tried that, there was like meltdowns because like, I think Luke, my brother, wasn't in the kitchen at 7 o'clock. And then mom was like trying to like discipline him, be like, you can't do that. And then he was like in tears and then it was a disaster. And so we decided that maybe instead of having specific times, it's more like, okay, you get up and then you go eat breakfast and then you do school. Like maybe you are really efficient at breakfast and you start school at 7. And then the next day you take a long time at breakfast and maybe you start school at like 10 or something because you got distracted, but then you have to do your school later. So we kind of made it a little bit more flexible because like times for us, at least our family, it probably works for some families. Like if you find that it works, awesome. But for us, it did not work. We're a little bit too spontaneous for that.
That's great advice because I can totally see a lot of families being more on that side than not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I, as a mom, I'm always trying to, find ways to challenge the kids and I have not been really great myself growing up with routine and making sure that I'm following through with things. And so that's something that I see in myself and in my own past as a child too, that I'm like, okay, we're going to be better at this. But I have realized that I needed to just relax on that because the timing and trying to set a schedule, like a lot of parents, I saw advice about get out the timer and say, okay, kids, you've got 5 minutes. Let's see how many toys we can pick up. Or like you set the timer and it's going ding, 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 right? Mm-hmm. And it's amazing how fast my kids have picked up the toys and all of these raving parents about how awesome that was. I tell you what, I set that timer and my kids both melted down on the floor in tears. Oh, and I'm like, come on, kids. Nothing, just meltdowns. Did not like the timer.
Okay, lesson learned.
Well, it took me 3 or 4 more times of making sure they really did not like that timer before I finally gave it up. But it's just kind of having that flexibility of also being okay that my kids don't like what your kids like. And that is okay.
And that is okay. Yes. Because, Pinterest is full of like billions of pins worth of activities and, philosophies and strategies. But who's to say they're going to work on your kids? Because there is no one size fits all formula for doing it right. You just have to get to know what works for your kids. So have you had to do that with a lot of things where it's like spaghetti against a wall and you see what sticks?
Yes. That's basically homeschooling. You gotta try. And what works today is not going to work tomorrow.
Ooh, yeah.
It really is. It's constantly changing over the years. The kids have kind of adapted too as far as their learning styles and is getting different and a little bit more precise every year as to me understanding how they learn. But we have had curriculums that have worked great through every year and it's been great. But most of them we have had to alter and change as things go by. And so we're giving it a try. Now I'm one to give it a try long enough. You have to really prove to me that this isn't going to work because I spent money on it.
Yeah.
So, we're like, so I also learned to ask the kids, these are the curriculums I'm looking at. These are my top 3. this is what I like about this one. This is what I like about this one. And this is what I like about this one. What ones do you guys think that you would like the best? And before I buy this, you have to commit to doing this. You know, a lot of times they like the most expensive one because it's pretty and it's most expensive. And so we're, all right, you have to do this all year. If you don't like it, we can switch next year. But having them part of that decision process has been really beneficial for the success. But still, we have things that have not worked and things that have worked, and you just keep trying. So
yeah, one thing I specifically remember for each changing every year is like the way that we schedule out our school. Like I'm in 10th grade now, and basically my scheduling system has changed over 10 times. Like even halfway through the year, Mom decides to change the scheduling system. Like it's just trying, when some things that worked when I was in elementary school don't work in high school, and you have to change that. But then you decide like, okay, this is not working for us, and so we need to try something new. And we even made our own schedules. And like this year, we used an online scheduling thing. What was it called? I can't remember what it's called.
Homeschool Tracker.
Homeschool Tracker.
Yep, you can find it at homeschooltracker.com. Yep.
Yeah, so we used that, and then we found that for my brother, Mom has to schedule things out for every day. But for me, she schedules basically all out on Monday, and I schedule it out for myself. So I can decide what days I want to do things, because I like that better than having it planned out for me. And my brother likes having things planned out for him, so he doesn't have to plan things out. So it kind of depends on like who likes what and stuff too.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And as far as the scheduling and the 10 different things over 10 years, you know, that speaks to the fact that, yes, you're technically homeschooling your kids, but you are a part of the school as a parent, and things have to work for you too. And that has been my biggest hurdle, is learning how to follow through with scheduling. And I found out too, and finally just resolved myself to the fact that I have to schedule out the entire year and get them on the calendar. So that's why we use Homeschool Tracker, and it's all on there. And so they have their whole year ready to go, because I was doing it about a semester at a time, but partway through the first semester, you have to now schedule a second semester. And my brain is off it. I'm on to 50 other things. I'm, you know, podcasting, I'm taking the kids to skiing. I am not thinking about scheduling. And then the second half of the year literally did not get scheduled for 2 years in a row. The kids are like, Mom, what are we supposed to be doing? I'm like, just keep going.
Yeah. Just do what you've been doing.
Just keep till you get to the end of the book, then stop.
So trial and error. You finally got to do it all at the beginning of the year.
Yep.
That's awesome.
And so that's what I found out, that what I had to do. So it is a learning process for Mom too. Those parents that are only doing it for a year, you know, that first year was my hardest year. And so the next year got easier because I figured things out. And then the next year got easier. So I've been doing this now 11 years. So, and it's still, I learn something every year, and it's still daunting at times. And I'm so ready for the school year to be over with. And we, you know, still are at each other's throats at times. But I would have to say that I would not give it up for the world, because I love spending time with my kids. I've loved being able to teach them to read. I've loved being able to teach them just these basic things that I never thought I would be able to teach my kid. And it's been just so rewarding to be able to do that.
I love that. And you weren't homeschooling in a pandemic either, which makes a difference.
No. And I wasn't forced into it, which makes a difference.
Yeah.
But there's also like a new opportunity.
Jobs.
Yeah. So, and it's going to look different too. It's so different for people.
Yeah, something people ask me, like, I'm homeschooled, like, okay, so how did your school year change? And like, it really didn't. My school didn't change at all. It's just basically everything else that I'm in that changed. Like, you think that homeschoolers are used to being home all the time, but we're not. I was like, I'm stuck at home just like everyone else. I can't go anywhere. Like I'm used to being able to like have to go from one thing to the next, like every day have something, at least one thing going on, and having to plan my school around that. And then now I'm like, well, get my school done. Now what do I do? Basically.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like my school year really didn't change. It was just everything else that did.
Right. Which is a huge advantage. And I'm sure that provided like some of the normalcy, familiarity, consistency that you needed when the world went bananas.
Right.
So I'm excited for the parents that are like, choosing this and embracing it. We all are in feels like a no-win situation for this fall. But if you are diving in with 2 feet, I'm sure some of the themes are, it's hard, and you're going to feel like you're failing, and, like, wake up every day and try again, right? Like, what are the other mantras that keep you going?
Find a place to get away, because, you're all of a sudden with your children all the time. And no matter the age, I've always had those days where I'm like, I just need to get away and have some me time. And the bathroom is not adequate because they knock on the door.
It's not very scenic. Yeah.
Once you get in that shower, they start to knock harder. And I'm like, don't you know I'm in the shower? So it's so important though to still remember that you need to have that alone time. And if you're able to, if your kids are old enough to, be on their own for a little bit and go out and take a walk, or even just sit down on your bed or lay down on your bed and watch a show. So I learned that it's really important to have that separation, especially when tensions are running high, and taking some time and calming down and breathing, even if it's overnight, be like, okay, we need to address this tomorrow, has been such a benefit if I can remember to do that, because I get so frustrated and angry sometimes when just things aren't going right and, things start adding up. And I've learned over the years to kind of, before I start yelling, to walk away. And the kids kind of have noticed, they're like, Mom's walking away. Just let her go. So my son sometimes doesn't know that. He still comes after me because he's looking for a fight. But just taking an opportunity to win those, especially when those times are tough, to do that. I mean, every parent has to do it no matter what. When things get tough, it doesn't matter if you're homeschooling. But don't fight your way through that day. If it's not working, don't leave claw marks on everybody trying to fight your way through. Just call it good. Call it a day and try again tomorrow.
Yeah, that's something we've done with homeschooling a lot, especially like more in elementary school, because we only had a little bit of school. Like we got our school done by noon, like every day, and some days it's just not working. Especially if Mom's trying to like teach us something and we're not paying attention. And she's like, "Okay, well, do more, like teach us like a history kind of like lecture." Kind of, it wasn't actually a lecture, but still. It's like, okay, we'll just do a little bit more tomorrow, and you can go outside for 20 minutes instead of doing this. And we're like, okay, well, that sounds like more fun anyways. So sometimes it's good just to like go outside and play around for 20 minutes instead of talking about history and then doing a little bit more like the rest of the week or something.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to like do the thing, right? And like follow through and get through the curriculum and all of that. And there's this overwhelming fear in the world right now of kids being behind. And, academically, we're not going to be on track. We're not going to be doing the test scores and like all of that panic. But going back to what you said before of like, you just trying to teach them how to learn, like how do you relinquish some of that pressure to do and stick to the schedule that you had already kind of prepared for ahead of time?
It's almost a daily fight, to be perfectly honest. It is not something where you can just decide, I'm just going to teach them to love to learn, and then you're off. Most parents just, you have to keep reminding yourself, okay, just sit down and read together. especially when your kids are little, these kindergarten curriculums that are like 4 hours long. I don't know a child that can sit down and do this and just sit down and do this virtual learning. Just letting them play and interacting with them when they're play, you can let them play alone. Absolutely. But, maybe giving them some challenges and building Legos and doing some fun stuff or going outside. That is perfect learning. Reading to them, audiobooks, just
Audiobooks
kind
are
of
awesome.
keeping their we love audiobooks, keeping minds engaged. My son is very active. I think if he went to public school, I'd be getting multiple calls from the principal about the child that will not shut up and will not stay still. And so he would do school, especially, he's just entering high school, but especially through those upper elementary, middle school years, he got to the point where he knew, Mom, I need to go outside for 20 minutes. I just need to go outside. I'm like, okay. It'd be the dead of winter in Minnesota and he'd be outside shoveling snow. He just knew that he needed to get out and move. So,
that's awesome.
So just kind of, the flexibility and just reminding yourself every day that loving to learn isn't always loving to read the textbook.
Yeah.
You can scrap the textbook and be like, okay, this is, we're reading about Daniel Boone. Let's maybe watch a YouTube video. Or what about Daniel Boone do you really love? Oh, I love the fact that he had a musket. All right, you want to learn about guns? Let's go learn about muskets. What did they look like? How did you load them? It's you can take different avenues with it. It doesn't have to be exactly what it looks like in the book.
Yeah. That will be another thing. That's another mantra on the wall like, to remind yourself of. But yeah, I think especially when the world feels so out of control, we want to clamp down on the things that we can control to give us that sense of like normalcy and that we're okay. But I think it's going to be to our detriment if as parents we try to micromanage all of these little things of what we're trying to do with our kids. And like you said, leave our claws in them, trying to get through them through the day. But if we keep the idea of flexibility and adaptability in front of our faces the whole day, then we're going to be able to go with the flow and keep our relationships more intact. Because I also know through like resiliency research, kids can get through hard things and hard times when they have a supportive, responsive grown-up to help them get through it. But if we are homeschooling and, in these confined spaces and not getting our needs met and, creating really ugly interactions with our kids, trying to get them through curriculum, that might do more harm than good. So how have you kept your relationship a priority through all of these hours of school?
As we've gone through, I know from my perspective, it's always been a big thing for me to figure out how to stay connected to the kids. And when I can start to tell that things just aren't going well as far as like the curriculum choice or the schedule or whatever, I'm not going to just dump it after an hour of complaint. That's not my, we're going to give this a try and we're going to persevere through it if we can and see if we can get over that hump. But when I can start to tell that it's really starting to not just be a complaint thing, but really affect how we're interacting on a daily basis, it's like, this isn't worth it. This is so not worth it. We need to try something new. And allowing myself to step back, like I talked about earlier, and think this through and allowing myself to just release that expectation and coming back to them and be like, okay, this isn't working. Let's try something new. Let's come together and figure something else out. Has been probably key to keeping that relationship going. But it's this really delicate balancing act, because I'm not just going to scrap a curriculum because the kids are bored with school. Yeah. But at the same time, it's you need to make sure that you're not tipping that to this other end of creating this angst between you just to get through the curriculum, because there's so many other options out there.
Yeah.
What do you think, Alaina?
Pretty much the same thing. Some days, like, it's just not working and you need to get a break. That's basically my suggestion, is if it's not working, like, take a break. Eat some food. That's basically my solutions to
Time for a
everything.
snack.
Yeah. I've been working. I'm going to go eat something.
Not bad advice.
There's no emotional eating in our house at all.
No.
Don't worry about it.
Not at all.
So keep ice cream handy. Oh.
Chocolate, ice cream. You know,
That
I have
works.
taken to literally like chucking Hershey Kisses across the room at her. Like, things are going well. And she's sitting with that book reading, angry. I'll just start chucking chocolate at her.
That's good advice.
Try to make light of this situation. I mean, just, okay, let's everybody breathe and let's just have a distraction for a minute and let's come back and try this again.
I love that. It's funny, but it's true. Like that you do have to bring some levity and some playfulness into these moments of seriousness now when you take over this role of teacher in order to keep liking each other by the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You know, and there is a big difference too between the distance learning that people are doing versus homeschooling. And I just want to make sure that people understand that, you know, we're talking specifically at homeschooling where you've decided that you're going to take over the curriculum choices. Mm-hmm. There are people that are distance learning where you can definitely apply some of this stuff, but you don't have that flexibility for curriculum choices. And so that provides more anxiety for those parents. And I really feel for those parents that are held into not being able to make some of those choices because that you have to barrel through with that. And still, like, you can, you know, make light of it, be flexible as much as you can with talking to your educators and, you know, respectful with them, but also you are now having that ability to see one-on-one with your child what is going on. And so take it upon yourself too to go ahead and contact your teacher. It's like, this is too much work, or this isn't working, or whatever. What else can we do? Because they are new to this virtual school. They're just trying to figure this out too. And so having an insight of what's going on in your home could help them understand how they need to make adjustments to your child's learning style at home too. So keep that communication open, and when things look like you're clawing at your child to try to get stuff done and you guys are fighting, take a step back and breathe and communicate with the teacher and see if you guys can come up with a better plan.
No, that's great. Definitely important to keep in mind because we are the experts of our kids and we will get to see them in a whole new light under these circumstances. And hopefully we'll be able to advocate for maybe better processes and procedures and, you know, better ways that we can meet their needs during this time. And hopefully, I'm hoping that it leads to bigger systemic changes that better meet kids where they're at.
Absolutely. And, you know, this COVID has created such an amazing new look on things because like now all these people that have like never done a Zoom meeting, now everybody's on Zoom, you know, but now like these people that didn't realize that these things existed, this now creating this new ability that people can now use even when COVID's done. So it has created new graduation, you know, parades that would never have happened before. And a whole bunch of new things that if you can look at it from the positive, it's like, what can we take from this and keep going? There's some really great things that have come from it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it can be a great catalyst for the change that has been needed, but hasn't gotten there because there wasn't that urgency. And now we're having to solve problems, you know, as we go. So I'm going to use that to kind of wrap up the homeschool and then get more into like the mother-daughter relationship specifically, more for just me because I have my girls. But I found on your podcast website where it says the mother-daughter bond is not a friendship, it's better. So what do you mean by that?
I think it's like if you have like a best friend, I mean, it's kind of like a different friendship than you would have with your mom. Like people say like, oh, my mom, like some people like mom and dad are like, oh, my mom or oh, my daughter is my best friend. And I mean, like you can be like really good friends with your mom or daughter, but I mean, it's different than having a best friend, I think. Because like, you live together, most people don't like live in the same house with their best friend. They don't necessarily like have arguments a lot. I mean, it's mother-daughter relationship. It definitely has a little bit more arguments than you would have with your best friend and a little bit more tension, but it kind of also makes it better sometimes. Because you can you kind of know each other way better than you would if you had just a friend.
Yeah. I think when somebody kind of relates it to the mother-daughter relationship to a friendship or best friend, to me, it almost diminishes it, because having my daughter and watching her grow up and having this relationship with her and working through things on a daily basis, like I wouldn't give it up for the world, but it is such a rich relationship. It is like a little mini you that, can show you the best and the worst of yourself, and you grow together. And I've learned that I can't be a mom without her. There's two in a mother-daughter relationship, there's two people. And so instead of me just trying out new things, reading a self-help book and trying them on her like a little guinea pig, I realized that I can bring her along with me and we can learn how to do this relationship together. And with doing this, it has really just brought to the fact that this is way better than a friendship. It's different. I have a best friend and we love each other to death, and I wouldn't give that up either. It's two completely different things. And so the mother-daughter relationship definitely is is an elevated sense, an elevated relationship from that.
It's so beautiful, and I haven't heard it described that way, but it's really inspirational in a way of how you can see it as the value added that there is through that added level of conflict, because with intimacy grows that connection, right? And so the more face-to-face time we have, the more things we have to repair in our relationship day in and day out, the stronger the bond, right?
Yes. Yeah. And it has, you could decide, oh, we're just going to fight. That's all, we just fight. Or you can decide that that's your relationship. And I'm so excited, my kids get to start school. Woohoo. Or you can decide, I love spending time with my daughter. No, we do not always get along, but I want to make this relationship the best we can. No, our story was from yesterday. We have a kitchen disaster area, and we're still both a little bit ouchy, but we, at the same time, let's get on a podcast together.
That's real life.
We're going to move on from it. Let's find ways to grow and move on together.
Yeah. So you don't get along 24/7?
Nope.
No.
No way.
Just to debunk that theory, if listeners are beginning to believe.
Even the idea, just sneaking back to the homeschools, you do not have to be the person with ultimate patience if you're a homeschooler. You don't have to always have the best patience or the best day. It's not every day is a great day, but that doesn't mean that you can't, always teach that and as an opportunity to grow.
Yeah. So another quote I saw on your website was, the more a daughter knows the details of her mother's life, the stronger the daughter. So what does that quote mean to you? Because I really liked that too.
So one of the things that I've learned through this journey is vulnerability. And as a parent, you want to really protect your children and kind of keep out all of that bad stuff. Maybe your history or the things that you're going through. Maybe you suffer from anxiety, depression, or a bad day or whatever. So one thing that I've had to really come to grips with is to be vulnerable and to let my teens, they know I fail when I get mad and start screaming, right? I'm like, okay, that was the wrong way to do that. But to come back and apologize, to let them see you at your bad days. I do suffer from some anxiety. And so, okay, I am going to go and talk with somebody today. And I've got my appointment today. And watching them see not only the good parts of you, but the parts that you struggle too, and having some vulnerability to allow them to see that you're human.
Mm-hmm.
So
what has that meant to you, Alaina, to kind of see both sides of your mom?
Yeah. Actually, I brought this up on one of our recent podcasts, but one thing that we talked about recently is kind of like, I was asking Mom, I wonder how old I was when I realized that, like, your name isn't Mom. Like, you actually have, like, your normal name, and people don't always call you Mom. I mean, because, like, I'm so used to...
And a human.
Yeah, like, you are actually a normal human being. You were, like... You know, when you're really little, you have the mindset of like, okay, she's my mom. And then you realize like she had a life before even I was born. I mean, like, she's a normal human being. She was my age once. She like kind of understands these things. So
kind of mind blowing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, she actually was 16 years old once. I mean, it's crazy. But, but yeah, it's kind of makes it a little bit more like different than a friendship too, to know that, I mean, like, your mom has gone through what you've gone through before you and kind of knows what you're going through, and can, like, even if she doesn't know all the answers, like, you can kind of go through things like that together.
Mm-hmm. And being able to have more of an authentic conversation helps, I'm sure, you be vulnerable when she's going first, being vulnerable, you know, and where you know that conversation topic is open, or that the door has, you know, is there. And I know when I, like, for my own relationships, the people that are the most honest with me, I can be the most honest with them. And I can be my full self, you know, mistakes and all, when I know that that's welcomed, because that's being led by example. So if your mom is doing that day in and day out, and you're kind of seeing both the good and the bad, then when you screw up yourself, I'm sure that there's like less of a feeling of failure, or like it's just me, or something's wrong with me, or, you know, all those things that we start to assume, because that's already been debunked, right? Like, because your mom's been there, done that.
Yeah. So if you, I know, like, I personally don't have like a lot of anxiety, but I know if I were like to start having more anxiety, I know I could talk to, like, tell Mom, because, like, I mean, she knows what it's like too. So yeah,
I think that's huge. Or just how she handles things, what you like or don't like about it.
Yeah, sometimes, like, when I'm struggling with something, she like sits me down and she's like, okay, we need to talk about this. And that makes me think, like, okay, maybe I can, like, when I'm struggling with something, she doesn't quite, like, notice it, then I'm like, okay, let's just sit down and talk about this, like, without her even, like, prompting me too. So something kind of like that.
So you're able to kind of use the structure and the tools that she's been modeling over time, and now you can kind of take ownership of them and use them yourself.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Has she ever screwed up royally?
Yeah. Yep. A couple times maybe, but I mean, so have I. So we've all. Yeah.
And you still love her regardless?
Yep. Definitely.
That was the time that I left you at church, right?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
I don't personally remember it, but Mom has never forgotten.
It's so awesome having a teen, and like two teens, because then they start talking about these stories and I have no clue what they're talking about. And this is like this big deal to them. And then like the stories that are a big deal to me, they're like, I don't even remember.
Yeah.
And so like I was in a play and we had practice, and the kids were really little, and they were in vacation Bible school at the church, just literally across the street from the school where we were rehearsing. And we had gone to that church. And so I'm standing on the stage for literally an hour and a half as an extra, just standing there during rehearsal that day. And I'm like bored out of my mind. I got done and looked at my phone, and there's like 30 messages and 6 missed calls. And finally, Tammy decided that she was just going to take my kids home. It was the last one. I'm like, what? And I totally forgot them at VBS.
Oh, no.
And they had to take my kids home and she got a hold of my husband. They dug his phone number out of someplace to make sure that he was home. And all of this is going on as I'm literally just standing on stage for an hour and a half. Totally forgot about it. And and that has like left like a scar on my heart about, oh my gosh, how can you be such a bad mom, right?
Yeah.
And leave them at church, and then like the whole church is trying to figure out. I'm like, oh my gosh,
You're that mom now. Yeah.
So, and they don't even remember it. So it's so interesting.
I don't remember that at all.
These kids. Having these kids, the things that are so important to you at the time, really, a lot of them are no big deal to them. And so we had a hard time coming up with like a really specific story where like, yeah, I remember that, because we had different views on them. So it was really kind of a fun time to kind of talk about, how these stories work. And, the stories of me remembering, or the times when I remember carrying them out of the grocery store like a football, leaving my cart full of groceries in the middle of the store and hauling them out as they're screaming, that's left a scar on me, but they have no idea, right? And so, and now I just have to note that whenever I see a parent with a screaming child, I am on your side. I am like, I need to start throwing chocolate. Hershey Kisses.
Purse full of Hershey Kisses. You throw them at like moms of screaming
just
children.
Start throwing them at moms. Here, I'm on your side.
Yes, that should be a new thing that we all just do now.
Yes.
Wear masks and we carry chocolate kisses.
You need this more than I do.
Yes. That's so good to know, though, because I know that so many of the moms that I've talked to are terrified that they're screwing their kids up because of those memories, and they really take a lot of responsibility for some of the ways that they mismanage some situations. But that's why I feel like it's so valuable to have you here, Alaina, to kind of debunk that, because we need to get that pushback to say, like, no, they don't remember, and it doesn't matter, and there are much more poignant memories later on, that when you handle something that's a really big deal to them that may not seem like a big deal to us, those are the moments that really matter. Is there other memories you have growing up, Alaina, that like are just good memories?
Yeah, I have definitely, like, looking back, remember a lot more of like the good things than like, sometimes when you're arguing or like having like you're arguing with your mom or something, like it seems like a really big deal at the time, like I'm never going to get over this, and then like a week later you're like, what were we arguing about again, or something like that. I mean, like, you forget about the arguments. Like, we've probably had a lot of arguments, but looking back, tried to think of some, I'm like, I can't think of any. Like, you just move on from them and make more good memories. Yeah, a lot of my memories I have are like doing things together. Like, if we've gone on a lot of vacations, and we've gone like all over the U.S., and a lot of those memories I remember. I mean, we probably had some times during our vacations where we were like arguing a lot, but I mean, I only remember really like all the really good things too.
That's so good. Good to know. I hope my kids are the same way. And I'm sure it really helps too if you repair the relationship after an argument. Like, the way that you kind of handle, moving on, I'm sure has a big piece in like not moving on with like resentment or grudges, or like keeping like a hold of that argument. So definitely. Do you have, either one of you, any advice on how you guys do that well, that you both feel understood at the end of the day?
It's a challenge, I would have to say, as far as trying to figure out how to connect. And that's something that we're still really working on, because as she's growing up too, that connection changes. Like, how you connect changes. So when they're littler, they just naturally, their memory and they're moving on. They're easily distracted. And so we hold it in a lot more as a parent, as a mom, than the kids do. But when they are becoming teens and their brain is in that higher development, it becomes a little bit more of a challenge because you do have to figure out then how to meet them where they're at. Mm-hmm. And what does that look like with still being the parent, but still giving them that understanding and that grace, but then also still being like, this is the rule and this is how it needs to be.
Yeah.
So there is that constant changing. And I kind of think of it as up north, we go ice fishing and there's the ice auger and it looks like a big screw, right? And it just keeps going down through the ice. And it's kind of something I'm always thinking about because as you get deeper and that ice auger comes back around, you're like another inch deeper and then it comes back around. So you're always going to keep coming back around to those same issues from when they were little. But it's going to look a little different each time. It's going to be a little bit deeper of a conversation, a little bit different, but we're still talking about chores and dishes. Since the kids were 4 years old and they've been helping load the dishwasher, now to 16, we're still having dishes arguments, right? So it's still there. So, but what does it look like now? How can we get past it? What's the expectation? And me learning too, how to give the kids the space they need to work through it. When do I approach them and make them talk through it? When is it good to back off and let them just kind of work through it on their own? Mm-hmm. There is not just a set recipe for that. It's just really understanding your kids. And if you're constantly trying to figure that out and give them the benefit of the doubt and giving them that opportunity to talk respectfully, it does help and it does slowly work your way through it. But it's a constant challenge of figuring out where that's at. And I find just kind of letting them know, it's like, we need to find a way through this. What do you think? What do you propose? Mm-hmm. We need to figure this out. Mm-hmm. So.
That's great advice. I think even just that analogy, like I can keep that visual in my head and just trust the process, like it's going to keep going around the circle and it'll eventually
it's going to come back again.
Yes.
And you're like, I cannot believe we're back here again. And haven't we figured this one out? And you're back.
Yep.
You're back again, figuring it out again.
So things are never just
no idea why that's God's plan, but it's exhausting.
I'm sure it somehow relates to our relationship with him as well, but we just keep needing to learn the same lessons.
Does.
Yeah.
That is way too much self-reflection for the day. Yeah, I should probably think about that.
Well, on that note, what is the story behind your podcast? Like, how did that come to fruition and what is it about?
So a few months ago, I wanted a way to connect with Alaina. I wanted to start exploring it a little bit more as far as talking together and communicating. She, enjoys public speaking and so do I. And we're like, well, gosh, that could be something that we could do together. Mm-hmm. And so that was my intent, is to just find something that we could connect with and just kind of continue that mother-daughter relationship over talking and trying to decide what would that be. Mm-hmm. She was all game. I mean, I was so excited. She's like, yay!
Yeah. I thought it was great.
I was so geeked out. I was so happy. So we thought, as far as topics go, our best bet would be just let's mother-daughter duo. Let's find ways to help other mother-daughters connect also. So we like to do some kind of get to know you games that if they're listening together, they can ask and answer on their own and just kind of start some conversations. And we're doing more interviews on as far as just how to increase that connection in a whole bunch of different ways of making sure that they're enriching and nourishing their relationships.
I love that. So needed.
Yeah. And this time it seems to be a disconnection on a lot of aspects. And so, with all of the social media and things that mother-daughter relationship seems to be kind of missed and disconnected. Mm-hmm. And it is so beautiful that like, let's find ways to help nourish this relationship within everybody.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the past episodes you've done?
We've done like a vacation series. We recently took a vacation to Wisconsin and up at the North Shore in Minnesota. And so we kind of did a 3-part series on that recently. So that was fun.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we are going to be releasing a couple episodes for just a mental health series too, about some anxiety and recognizing teen suicide. So we've got a couple episodes with that of coming up. And so we've got a lot of fun things that we have planned. Nice. But up until this point, it's been more just our relationship and our journey. And so now we're starting to venture into more interviews and starting to get other people's perspectives. Some people that mother-daughter duos that hopefully we can get on together. Unfortunately, we're having a little bit hard time having teen daughters feel comfortable doing this. And so we're really excited about maybe encouraging them that, they have a voice and we want to hear that voice, and let's explore that together. So we're working on it though. We're working on a couple.
That's a huge way that you, Alaina, can help encourage other girls to step up and say, like, if I can do it, you can do it.
I mean, I'm not a professional public speaker by any means, so if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah. I think it's a very cool venture to just start, and figure it out as you go, and a huge way that you guys can learn together and, continue to have a reason to be working together and, working through those challenges. So thank you for adding that to the podcast space. I think there's such value to be found in podcasts right now to just pop like really good, encouraging things in our ears when everything seems a little crazy. But if there's anything else you wanted to share, I can kind of give you like a pedestal to do that. If there was anything else that either one of you wanted, felt like you wanted to share to any of the moms out there.
I'd just like to encourage them that even if they don't have a really great relationship with their daughter right now, that it's never too late to start, to listen, to have some fun together, find something that your daughter likes to do, and just go out and do that.
Yeah.
Ask some of the fun get to know you questions we have. Just kind of start to nourish that relationship together. It's never too late.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not going to be easy either. Like the very first time you try it, try to have a good relationship with your mom or daughter. It might not go the way you plan, but just keep trying. It's totally worth it.
That is such good advice. And so the last question that I ask every guest that comes on, Rebecca, is how are you the mom that your kids need?
I kind of wonder that a lot. And I think I'd have to go back to reminding myself that God gives us the children that we need. They give us a reflection of who we are and who we could be. And I think when we look back at our children, we can see not only the best of ourselves, but also the worst of ourselves too. And that gives us such a beautiful reflection to be better people in this world, and also to be a better person for our children, that they're chosen for us. And that is just such a beautiful thought, that we can know that we were meant to be together, and that God has entrusted us with these beautiful people to raise. And it's so encouraging and lovely. I love it.
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful. So moms can find you at Lemons and Curls on all the podcast places.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, and where else?
We have a website on lemonsandcurls.com, and we also have a Facebook page, and we're on Instagram too. So
perfect.
You can come find us there.
Yeah. I will put all of those links in the show notes so moms of daughters can find you and hopefully contact you and encourage their daughter to come on for an interview with you, maybe.
Yes, and we would love to hear stories.
Yeah, that would be so much fun. But thank you guys for your time and for the good stuff that you're putting out into this world, and keep on keeping on through this next school year and all of the episodes to come. I really appreciate the time that you've spent with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having us on. This has been a lot of fun. And yes, thank you. And we love your podcast. So
thank you.
Just got to put that out there. I'm so excited to be on here.
Oh, I love that. Thank you.
It's been great listening to you guys.
Yes. So I highly recommend yours as well. So hopefully you get lots of new listeners after this. But just thanks again for your time and keep up the hard work.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks. How fun was that? I hope you were encouraged for this crazy year ahead. And of course, always remember that you are the mom your kids need. Next episode, we're switching gears to talk to a full-time career mom and how she's been handling quarantine. Don't forget to grab your gift from me. Go to parentingwholeheartedly.com/emotions to download your workbook teaching you how to walk your kids back to calm. Have you left a 5-star review yet? It helps other moms find this show. Thanks for coming on this journey with me. I believe in you and I'm cheering you on.